everybody. This is Tracy coming to you from my very own kitchen. I got inspired today to do this video as a way to give you the experience of what it's like inside of the group coaching programs, where about once to maybe even sometimes twice a week we do live cooking together. It's obviously something that is planned ahead of time and built into the curriculum of the group coaching program. And you get the recipes ahead of time and the shopping lists ahead of time. And what we do is we come on to these group coaching calls and we're all in our kitchens, all with the same ingredients, ready to prepare the same recipe together. It's really super fun. But I can't tell you how often I get the question and objection: how in the world do you cook every single night? You know, I'm just a brand new empty nester. So for 25 years, every single night, with the exception of Saturday nights, it's the only night I don't cook. But how do you do it? How do you do it with 3 kids and a couple dogs and a husband and a business? Well, first of all, I will confess I absolutely love it. So that's a big piece, and I will concede that. But I want to help you fall in love with it as well. You don't have to get super fancy, but if I can show you that we can put together a meal that is incredibly nutritious and very, very yummy for you and your family in about 30 minutes, start to finish, maybe it won't seem quite as intimidating, and maybe whole food will find its way back into your home and into your family's lives. That is going to be one of the absolute foundational elements of improving mental and physical health, and certainly relational health. We've gotten away from family meal time, and there's some really, really interesting research out there showing much better overall outcomes for kids who launch from homes where they sat and ate a meal together a minimum of 3 times a week. And that doesn't mean everybody standing over their to-go bag, wolfing down and talking about, hurry up, I'm late for soccer. It means sitting down without distraction, talking to each other, connecting, inquiring about each other's day and lives, laughing together, supporting each other, just getting to know each other, just like we have to do in our marriages, like stay connected and continue to inquire and feel close. We need to do that with our children, our family unit, and if you're so blessed, even the extended family. It's such an amazing gift if that's part of your life. So this is really off the cuff. I just was starting to get myself together to put dinner together. It's just my husband and me, but I still try to cook smart, and I cook more. And we will either eat it, you know, in the next coming couple of days, or today I decided to make turkey meatballs, and I will probably freeze half and we will eat half over the next day or 2. So I'm like, you know what? Let me just put the camera on and let me just show you guys that this doesn't have to be terribly intimidating. As I go through, I'm going to show you things that are really like, you know, best quality I could get my hands on, and other things that are like, this is what I have in the house, this is what I'm going to use. I don't shoot for perfect. I just shoot for the best I can do with what I have at hand right now. I am very intentional when I go to the store. I really do, you know, staying within my own personal budget, I do the best I can to maximize that budget, to put the healthiest, cleanest, most conscious food in my home and in our bellies. I will say that is a really big initiative. It's always been a passion of mine to make sure I'm not putting garbage into my body. It's just something I've always valued. So yeah, just quickly, I will walk you through. So I went and got myself a couple pounds of organic turkey. I prefer, so here's an example of where it's not perfect, but it's good. It's organic, so at least I know that even though they shouldn't be grain-fed and they should be pasture-raised, that's very difficult to find. Pasture-raised organic turkey. That's tough to find, even for me, and I live in a pretty rural area. So I just do the best I can with what I can access. The better quality turkey that I can access is at a different store, but I was at ShopRite today, and I wasn't going to make a separate trip just for the turkey. So again, I'm doing the best I can with the resources at my fingertips, okay? So theirs is white and dark meat, and it is organic and pasture-raised, and it's probably 50% more expensive than this. But so this is, you know, ShopRite's organic ground turkey. Very lean, super high in protein. Just 1 pound has about 80 grams of protein. And very, very low fat because it's a lean white meat. So I'm going to make 2 pounds of that. And like I said, each pound will probably give me somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 12 meatballs, depends on how big or small you decide to make them. If you have small children, I would really encourage you make tiny little meatballs that they can then kind of squish between their fingers, or if they're old enough to use fork and knife, they can cut just one time in half. Doesn't have to be this kind of big, here, let mommy cut that for you. But so I should get probably 20 to 24 meatballs out of this. I am using organic pasture-raised eggs. That's a biggie for me. I really do spend the money on the quality eggs because we eat eggs every day in some form or fashion. And generally speaking, I will use 1 egg per pound of meat. So I have both of my eggs here. I have, don't fall. I have my organic fresh parsley, and I wanted to show you how I store it. It stays forever. I mean, forever. It's a bit of an exaggeration. I probably will use all of this parsley in a week and a half to 2 weeks tops, but it stays so well. I wash it thoroughly when I get home from the store. I shake the excess water off in the sink. I put it in this container without that rubber band. I let it breathe. Now that water that's still on the leaves will drip down, and it'll actually create a little bit of reservoir here for the plants to draw from. And then I loosely fit a Ziploc bag over it so that there goes one of my eggs, but that's okay. We're going to use it. I mean, we're using it, so it doesn't matter that it cracked. Okay. If it fell off and we weren't using it, you have to cook it, by the way. If an egg cracks, you have to cook it. You can't put it back in the fridge and be like, it's fine, because it's not fine. So I just drape this over, and it stays protected from the harsh temperature in the refrigerator, but on the counter, it won't do as well. That's at least how I have found the herbs to work. They do better. Well, not all herbs, because my basil's behind me, but the more hardy herbs, parsley and cilantro, things like that, I do it this way, and it works fantastic for me. So I will put a bunch of pulls off of this parsley into the meatballs, because guys, you really want to get as diverse plant ingredients in your meals, striving for like 20 species a meal. If you can do that, that is going to greatly impact the health of your gut microbiome. It's going to feed all different strains of bacteria and keep them all happy and populating. So, just off of the cuff, I have parsley. I'm going to be putting some organic onion in there, some organic garlic in there, and organic Italian seasoning. And this has 6 in here, I believe. I am going to pull off some of the fresh basil. I have pepper. So right there, what is that, like a half a dozen? And then I'm going to be using tomatoes. So that's another one. I'm going to be using tomatoes. And then I have this spaghetti squash. I'm going to show you how to cook. But this is another one. So what do I have? 1, 2, 3, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14, and that doesn't even include my salad. I'm going to do dinner tonight with an arugula salad that has some cucumber and red onion. And so I always try to do my best, kind of like a little contest to have with myself, to see if I can get 20 species of plant in each of our meals. Maybe it's a little dorky, but that's how I do it, and I love it. And what I've also done, I am definitely going to hit my 20, because now that it's really, summer in New Jersey, it's been really hot summer, and I miss having something to drink that doesn't have any calories or sugar, but it's something. I mean, I do love water. Some people really struggle, but I brewed some everyday detox tea. See, I have it brewing over here. I put like 4 bags, and I'm letting it steep for a while. And then I will add that to some filtered water with some ice cubes, and I'm going to squeeze some fresh lemon and lime in there, and we'll have that as our drink. So, I mean, my goodness, there are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 additional plants in here. So I'm way past 20. Woo! That is so fun to me. So, technically the timer hasn't started because we're chitty-chatting, but I am going to show you that it is possible to have this amazing, gorgeous meal that if you went out and bought this at a restaurant, first of all, you're not even going to find it because the ingredients are just top shelf. You're not going to find it. But if you're lucky enough to live somewhere that you can, let's say you have a family of 4. There's no way you're getting out of that restaurant for under $150. It's not going to happen, especially not in this economy. So it's very reasonable to do this from home, and I'm excited to show you how. And if this inspires you to jump in the next group coaching cohort, then fantastic. I feel like the best way to get inspired for change that can be hard when you're doing it alone is get in a group. Get in with a bunch of people who are trying to make the same changes as you, and let's see what happens, right? So, okay. So I'm looking at my clock. It's 4:05, and I'm not going to feel like that cooking show where you're under like all kinds of crazy time pressure, but I am wanting to show you that it's not as difficult as maybe your imagination is telling you. Okay, so I'm going to first crack open my 2 eggs. Something that I don't do that I really wished I had while my family was home was a countertop compost. I just tend to have kind of a black thumb, so I never really did that. But see, these shells are unbelievably nutrient dense. If you have a garden, if you have flowers, plants, you could compost these, crush them down, and add them to the water, and it adds all kinds of minerals to the soil. It's really helpful for any of the plants that you're trying to grow. So I've got my 2 eggs in there. I am going to just pop open my turkey. And I will say, before we went on, I took all my jewelry off and really, really washed my hands well with obviously soap and water. That's a super important part. Make sure you take your jewelry off, ladies, because it's really, you do not want meat trapped in your gorgeous rings, okay, or your bracelets. Okay, so there's our 2 pounds. I'm going to leave this right here and have it be like a little garbage can for me until we're done. So now I have to use soap because I have other things to touch. And whenever you're handling meat or raw eggs, just be careful of your environment. Just be mindful of your environment because you certainly don't want to cross-contaminate anything. So what I'm going to do is just pull off a bunch of parsley. I just pull it off. I try not to get too much of the stem, but I don't make a science out of it. I just pull and I say thank you to this gorgeous plant. Thank you for the beauty and the nutrition and the flavor. It's just gorgeous. Just gorgeous. I mean, it even smells so amazing. I feel like maybe it would even help people with sinus issues because it just is like that. It just kind of, plants do that, right? They do that. So there's phytonutrients in here, which are nutrients that come from plants. They feed the gut microbiome. They provide a full spectrum of diverse nutrients necessary for immune function and just cellular operation. This is what your body is expecting to come in on a daily basis. So if this is not part of your daily diet, I'm really excited about the prospect that maybe you will be inspired to add this to your life because it's really not that tricky. I'm going to do just one more pull. Everything for me, this is why I am the worst baker on the planet. I don't measure. And in baking, if you don't measure, you've got nothing but like a clump of grossness. And that's me when I bake for the most part. I don't really, I'm just more of an eyeball it kind of a person. And it's worked well for me all my life. I've been cooking and messing around in the kitchen, and it just works well for me. And now you'll see on my wood cutting board, okay? You don't ever want to use plastic. You can use stainless steel or you can use wood. And make sure that wood is not treated, okay? Because you don't want any of those foreign particles in your food. They say the average American eats a credit card size amount of plastic every year. Can you imagine the endocrine storm in our bodies with that kind of poison circulating in the body. It's just doing the best it can do to try to figure out what the heck is this and what am I supposed to do with it. These are the kinds of things we learned about in the group program. We talk all about modern lifestyle and how it really crashes up against what the body expects in terms of inputs. And then because it's getting all of these foreign inputs, we're getting all of these unwanted foreign outputs in the form of disease. So if we could learn more about what the body is expecting and honor that and be so grateful for the body that we are in and treat it with that gratitude by nourishing it as best as we can, we will get better outputs. There's no question about it. So then I just minced up maybe about 5 or 6 organic cloves of garlic. Okay, now I'm going to just do some organic white onion. And again, I'm just going to mince this small. I don't know if any of you who decide to join this video and, you know, stick around for the whole thing, I wonder what your knife skills are, if you're comfortable in the kitchen, if you have a good quality set of knives that, you know, they say you get cut on dull knives, not so much the sharp ones, because the sharp ones do what they're meant to do with very little effort. They just slide and slice right through. But when it's a dull knife or just like not really a great quality knife, we have to force a little bit, and sometimes that knife slips. It did happen to me once. I have a pretty good scar on this finger. Live to tell about it, but I'm decent. I'm not fantastic, but over these many years, I've gotten really comfortable with a whole bunch of different types of knives. But the mincing part is fine for me. So I made those pieces of onion nice and tiny. Beautiful health promoting properties in onion. One off the top of my head is quercetin, and that's been kind of a buzzword since COVID. But we do get quercetin from onions. And I try to clean up as I go so I don't have too much of a giant mess. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of Celtic salt. There's a little bit of discrepancy online as far as how many minerals, but the consensus seems to be a spectrum of 82 different minerals in here. Absolutely amazing, incredibly health promoting to have all of these micro minerals in your food to replenish what you've lost throughout the day just by being a human being. Again, I don't measure. I'm just going to do a small pinch. I don't like things to be terribly salty, so that's enough for me. Just a small pinch of the salt. I use a couple shakes of organic black pepper and organic Italian seasoning. I don't just shake it. I pour these in. I love this. So coming from an Italian background, my husband is Italian. This is what I'm used to, and this is what our palate really loves. This is amazing. I go through, I don't know, this will probably last us a month at best. And I'm gluten-free, so I use this breadcrumb. Again, it's not perfect. It is very, very tasty. It does have one ingredient in here that I'm really unhappy about, but I have to believe it's somewhat minimal because it's one of the last ingredients listed, and this is a dry product, but it's non-GMO canola oil. Awful. At least it's not modified, but I use it sparingly. And again, because I'm gluten-free, this is the best I have found so far. I always keep my eyes open for better products, but this is what I use for now. And again, I don't go too crazy. I just enough so that 2 pounds of meat will stick together. That's enough. That's probably half a cup, maybe 2/3 of a cup at the most that I just put in there. And then I do add some Pecorino Romano cheese. I use this because my daughter doesn't do dairy, and so I don't want to use cow's milk. I use sheep's milk. Now, she doesn't seem to have a problem with this. So I use maybe a 1/4 of a cup I use of the Pecorino Romano cheese. Okay, that's literally all of the, oh wait, let me throw some basil in there. And it's right behind me. I'm just going to pick a bunch of leaves off here. Now, when you are when you are pulling when you're pulling your herbs at home, the basil, you're going to want to pull from high. The bigger leaves from high, because the plant has to work super hard to get the water up there. So don't pull from low, because the plant doesn't have to work too hard to get the water there. It's got to really get it up to the top. So help that plant out by plucking the larger leaves that are up high. Okay, prune it down like that. Okay, so some people use mashers. I use these mashers. That's why I go kind of a little bit crazy with soap and water. Before I do that though, I'm going to use my avocado spray from Costco. And I just have a stainless steel tray. And I'm going to cover that in the oil. Now, if these were beef, which is much fattier, even if you got the 90% lean, I wouldn't put quite as much of that oil, because the fat will drip out of that meatball onto the tray. But because this is turkey, they're really lean. There's no fat that's going to come off the meatball, really. So I put a decent amount. I mean, it wasn't too crazy, but enough that they won't stick. Okay, so let me move this guy. And you're just going to use your hands to turn it. And you'll know if this is foreign to you, you know, it's going to take you a couple times probably to get your consistency the way you and your family prefer it. Some people like a really loose meatball. Some people like a super firm meatball. I like something that's kind of in between. And so the way I know I put enough breadcrumbs, that's the only factor that isn't like, that's really you can influence, right? You want to start off with as little breadcrumbs as possible and add to it, because of course, if you add too much, there's no taking the breadcrumbs out. You're going to have to either add another pound of meat and another egg and more spices and just make the batch bigger, or you're going to have yourself a couple of lacrosse balls for dinner. But the way I know that there's enough breadcrumbs going on is if I can do this with one hand and make that into a ball and it doesn't stick to my hand, I'm in good shape. So that's about the size that I do. And now I'm just going to line up this tray. So as I do this, something a little on the interesting side that maybe, I don't know, maybe you haven't considered this as an option for yourself, but in the summer, it is so hard for us to get this house cool. And so I really try to use the grill or not use heat as much as I can. Of course, I can't always avoid it, but I really do predominantly use the grill. So I am going to use the grill for these meatballs. I have it warming up now, and I put the heat on low so that, of course, because the inside of a grill, it gets like crazy hot, even when you put it, you know, fairly low. So I put that grill down so the inside probably doesn't get higher than, I'd say, between 375 and 400. But that's fine. The meatballs are going to do fantastic at that temperature. Keeps all the heat outside, and it does the job just as well as my oven. At least that's been my experience. And once I'm done with these, I'm going to just show you what I do for this spaghetti squash. And I will also just put that straight on the grill and let the grill do the work. Cook that squash down. They'll take about the same amount of time. Believe it or not, the squash might take a little longer than the meatballs because that rind is so thick. But I pierce it a whole bunch of times to make sure that, first of all, it doesn't explode inside of my grill, but it helps it to cook faster if you let that air circulate through those cuts that you make. So, and then, so what I'm going to do, typically I make my own, I mean, here we go. Here's like if you're in the world of Italians at all, it's like the Hatfields and the McCoys. Is it sauce or is it gravy? I grew up with my mom calling it gravy, as did my husband, but there are other diehards, Italian people who say it's sauce, gravy's brown. It doesn't even matter, whatever, right? But I typically would make my own gravy in large batches, but with the nest that's empty, I don't need that much food. It's not to suggest that once football starts, I'm not making full-fledged meatballs and gravy, because I absolutely love it. We both do. But right now, because it's hot and I certainly can't make gravy on the grill, I am going to show you, I'm just going to do Costco's organic, let's see, organic marinara from Tuscany from Costco. It's in a glass jar. You really do your best to get things in glass. But I will zhuzh it a little on the cooktop by adding some garlic and Italian spices to it, just to make it taste more as if I did make it, but I didn't. So I'm going to do that with the sauce, which while these meatballs are cooking, that's going to take 15-20 minutes because I do want it to kind of cook through. And I will put the meatballs on top of the spaghetti squash and use the sauce just like as if I was making spaghetti and meatballs, but I'm making spaghetti squash and meatballs with an arugula and cucumber and red onion salad on the side. And that is dinner. So I'm making my last meatball right now. We are only at 4:20, so we are only 15 minutes in, and that's with a lot of chitty chatting. If I wasn't doing this video, this probably would have taken me almost 5 minutes less in terms of time. So see, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so 23. I got 23 meatballs out of that, 2 pounds of turkey, and that's just about, you know, where I expect it to land with a medium-sized, it's a small to medium-sized meatball. Let me wash my hands. So, like I said, the grill has been warming, so it's right at the temperature I need it to be. And once I get this tray of meatballs on there, they will need, I'd say, maybe about 18 minutes to cook. I get to take them off the grill, put them into the pot that has here's the Costco sauce. I'm actually going to add some organic diced tomatoes just to make it chunkier. I like chunky. Not everybody does, but we do, with extra garlic and parsley and basil and fresh, you know, that kind of thing. So I'll add the meatballs so they get to kind of soak that gravy up while this squash continues to cook. This will probably take about 25 minutes on the grill. So I'm just going to stab it several times to kind of break through the thick rind so that this thing can breathe as that heat is, you know, picking up. And so this thing does not explode, because believe me, if you put it on the grill for 25 minutes at 400 degrees, I swear, I think the thing would explode. So it is 4:22. I'm ready to put these things on the grill. We could potentially be sitting down to eat by 10 to 5. So the work was about 10 to 15 minutes. Cook time is nothing that we can do about that. I'll make the salad too while everything's cooking. And by 10 to 5, we're sitting down and we're eating. And I don't even have that big of a mess. You know, I wish I had calculated how much it costs. I'm going to do that, and I'll make some comments after, once I figure out what it costs. So then you guys can take that cost and extrapolate it for your family, realizing that you're getting almost 2 dozen meatballs. So you probably wouldn't eat 2 dozen unless you have a really large family. Maybe you do, God bless you. But I think that would be another little helpful piece of information, so you can see for yourself, you can do this too. And I would love to show you how. I would love to see you in our next cohort. And if you're interested in that, please head over to slingshothc.com. There is, under services, there is a form you can fill out to be put on the waiting list for registration. Certainly you can private message me on Instagram or Facebook. You can email me, Tracy@slingshothc. However you do it, get in touch and start making the changes in your home that you know in your heart need to be happening. You know it, just like I know it. There are certain experts in my life that have skills that I don't have, and they coach me. And when we know our weaknesses and we say, you know what, I need a little help there, I really feel like we are living out the Great Commission. We are living out becoming one. We are reaching out for support from one another, knowing that none of us is an independent vessel where we need no help. Everybody needs help. Everybody needs coaching. Everybody needs accountability. Everybody needs support. There's no shame in that. The only shame is when you just stay shut down and you just don't do better because you're afraid or ashamed or scared or whatever to reach out. I'm here. I'm like the easiest person in the world to get along with. Would love, love, love to see your beautiful face in the group. I'm going to come around my counter and shut the camera off. Hope to see you all soon. Take good care.